The whole idea of cause seems to be just a wrong-minded attempt to explain existence. And when we say something exists, like some kind of name or form, then the mind comes up with some way that that came about. But the very mind itself is the same stuff. It's all the mind trying to explain its own projections or its own conjurings is really should be questioned.
Yes, it would assume the mind's existence. The question about an object and its cause always must relate to the I who perceives it. Is the I, is the nature of the self a cause? Obviously, it cannot be an effect because it is self-existent. But is it a cause?
Well, the question I'd have to ask is the cause of what? Does it cause any, or no? It just, the whole basis of Sri Ramana's Advaita teaching of no creation is really clear in what we're talking about, because there's no there is only reality, and it's not objectified. There isn't a second one, a second world existing of stuff. And if you got stuff, then you've got an I in this. And then there's myriad explanations of that whole. But if I really question who am I, what is the I that I actually know that's not an object? That absorbs the second whatever.
So then, being is uncaused. It is not caused by another, nor does it cause another. There's no such thing as another. Similarly, consciousness is uncaused. It is not to be regarded as a cause of another, and nothing else causes it. If we have the idea that something else causes it, for whom is this idea is the proper inquiry. What is said of being consciousness is also true of bliss. Causality does not pertain to it. Indeed, it is when the idea of another has become impossible that bliss shines without obstruction. All the explanations about illusion given in the various scriptures and elsewhere are only for the destruction of that illusion. The destruction is complete when the very concept that there is an illusion has also been dismissed. Similarly, all the Shastras are for the individual, the elimination of which is their purpose. The elimination of the ego or individual is complete when its utter impossibility is conclusively realized. By inquiring, who am I? Even into the apparently individualized existence, only pure being is found to exist, which has not the least trace of individuality to it at all. That is not some new state attained. It is the reality which is ever existent. Because it is not a new attainment, it cannot be lost. What comes goes, what appears disappears. But that which is not born doesn't perish. Because the certainty of this knowledge regarding this truth is non-objective, indivisible. It is therefore also invariable. For whom would it vary? Who would be bound? Who would be liberated?
So if that reality is not known, or believed to not be known, the thing to do is to inquire into who has that thought.
Exactly. Who does not know? If you inquire deeply as to who it is that does not know, the self that remains is the knowledge. For being is knowing.
Sri Ramana's teaching is the purest and most simple and most profound.
Its simplicity is in its thought-transcendent nature. It's that kind of simplicity.
Like it's simple to know my existence.
Yes.
Because there's no thoughts involved.
And its profundity lies in its absolute nature. It is absolute. It is not in relation to anything else so-called.
So to think that you could, the idea that you're going to realize your own true existence without anything other than continuous inquiry, I can see where we'll always fall short.
Yes, because continuous inquiry is really continuous knowledge. If we imagine a state of discontinuous inquiry, then we're imagining intervals in that knowledge, which, although that is not truly possible, amounts to the conjuring of ignorance. If there's ignorance, there's no self-realization forthcoming. The ignorance all amounts to the definitions of the ego or I. In his text Atmavidya, Sri Bhagavan equates the truth, the highest knowledge, with grace, bliss, and egolessness.
Which describes him. So any idea that continuous inquiry is difficult or not possible or I have something else to do is really nonsense.
It just amounts to leaving certain definitions unquestioned. The idea that it's difficult. What would be the difficulty and for whom?
Yeah, when I actually inquire, it's the easiest thing I can do. Well, it's not even doing. But when I actually inquire,
it's natural.
It's very natural. It's the other part that's unnatural and a lot of work, resulting in bondage and suffering.
And to attempt to define what is real from the standpoint of illusion is bound to be mistaken. To make assumptions about the inquiry from the position of not inquiring is absurd. First one should inquire and then decide.